After an outstanding collegiate career, Zach Edey will look to make his mark with the Memphis Grizzlies. In this video, I'll outline 3 ways Edey can make an immediate impact to help his squad get back to the playoffs and his prospects of winning next season's Rookie of the Year award. The first area I think Zach Edey can make an immediate impact with the Grizzlies is with his rebounding. It should come as no surprise to anyone that Zach Edey is a tremendous rebounder. He led the country in total rebounds and offensive rebounds his senior season. He was also second in offensive rebounding percentage his senior season at about 18.1%. His junior season, he had a offensive rebounding percentage of 21.6%, which was the second highest mark over the last 15 seasons in college basketball. And for those who are a little confused at what offensive rebounding percentage is, essentially if you were to take all the available offensive rebounding opportunities for a player and break that down into what percentage of offensive rebounds they actually grabbed, that is what offensive rebounding percentage is. Both of those marks ranked top 20 all time over the last 15 seasons, higher than a player like Kenneth Faried, DeMarcus Cousins, Oscar Tshiebwe, the list goes on. Again, Zach Edey, one of the best offensive rebounding centers we've ever seen in the history of college basketball. Last year was a pretty tumultuous season for the Grizzlies, dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of players coming in and out of the lineup, but a lot of the players that they're returning for next season are not some of the league's best rebounders. Santi Aldama, who played 61 games and averaged 5.8 rebounds per game. Jaren Jackson Jr., who played 66 games and averaged 5.5 rebounds per game. Vince Williams Jr., who played 52 games and averaged 5.6 rebounds per game. And then Brandon Clark, who only played 6 games last season due to injury, averaging 5.3. And of course, John Morant, who only played 9 games last season due to injury, averaging about 5.6. So again, rebounding will be a pretty pressing need. Obviously, I think the Grizzlies had a healthy season last year. Those rebounding numbers for some of those players would have been a little bit better, but I think Zach Edey will be able to come in and probably be the best rebounder on the team. Again, that's a way he's going to make an immediate impact for Memphis. So the next area where I think Zach Edey will make an immediate impact is with his ability as a screener. One might say, well, he's 7'4", 300 pounds. Of course he's going to be an effective screener, but I think Zach Edey is more than just a big body. I feel like he really understands the nuances of being an effective screener. He understands angles, when to roll, when to set screens, etc. And again, I really feel like this is a place where he's going to be very impactful during his rookie season and throughout the entirety of his career. So this is a play against Tennessee during Purdue's tournament run this past season. It's really just an example of a good 2-man game with Zach Edey and his point guard Braden Smith. I'll let it play out first and then we can kind of break it down from there. So again, this portion of the video is really just highlighting Zach Edey's ability as a screener, and I felt like this frame in particular was just a perfect example of that. Again, I mentioned that he's 7'4", nearly 300 pounds, but look at this screen he has set on Braden Smith's on-ball defender. It's almost as if he's not even on the screen anymore. Of course, you can kind of see his legs in between Zach Edey, but again, you're not going to be able to take away the fact that he is 7'4", nearly 300 pounds, and just has a frame that can set engulfing screens like this one. So from there, you see Braden Smith's defender is now trailing him. Number 13, who was originally defending Zach Edey's, now shifting over to Braden Smith, trying to help. And that also pulls down Vescovi a little bit, who now has to deal with the rolling Zach Edey. Just one screen puts the entire defense in rotation. And from there, you see Braden Smith, nice pump fake, gets the defenders to jump. And from this position, now he has 2 options. If he wants to kick it out to the 3, he has a wide open shooter on that left wing. But of course, he still has Zach Edey, one of the most efficient low post scorers we've ever seen, in a mismatch against Vescovi, a smaller guard. This is just the advantage that Zach Edey creates simply from setting screens. And even though I'm not going to touch on his ability as a post scorer much in this video, I think his effectiveness down low is going to be a huge reason as to why these kind of plays are going to be so valuable for the Grizzlies, because these types of switches are going to be almost 2 points every time if you have Zach Edey that close to the basket against a smaller defender. So here's another example of that two-man game with Zach Edey and his point guard from Purdue, Braden Smith. I'll just let it roll, and then again we can break it down from there. So again, I talked about Zach Edey and just understanding the nuances of being a screener, and I felt like this was a good example of that. So as you can see, Zach Edey, he catches the pass at the top of the key and then hands it back off to his point guard, Braden Smith. And as you can see from there, Zach Edey will flip the screen. And even though it's a really subtle thing, I think it really makes Braden Smith's defender really work to get around the screen that Zach Edey is setting. And again, I think being a good screener, part of it is just keeping the defense off balance. And I think Zach Edey does that really well. Again, Zach Edey, just a massive frame. I think he does a good job getting a little bit lower and making just the right amount of contact to make sure that Braden Smith can get the advantage. From there, you can see Zach Edey's man starts to help just a little bit. He steps up. Then you'll see Braden Smith retreats a little bit to give him just enough space to throw a lob down to Zach Edey. Zach Edey, being the massive lob target that he is, of course, catches it and converts the dunk. Another reason why I wanted to highlight this play is because I think I focused a lot on how being a screener will help Zach Edey score points in the NBA. But of course, he'll be setting screens for many of those on the Memphis Grizzlies, most notably his point guard, Ja Morant. And I feel like Ja Morant thrives in these types of advantage situations. I really liked Braden Smith during this tournament run for Purdue. But again, imagine replacing Braden Smith with Ja Morant, one of the most dynamic point guards in the NBA, blazing quickness, great ball handler, and obviously a great decision maker as well. Even though we didn't get to see much of it last season because of his injury, I think Ja Morant in a situation just like this one has the ability to get to the rim and score at will. We've seen the drop crossovers, the hesitation moves. I think Ja's quote-unquote bag will be on full display this season, and we'll see a lot of it in these kind of situations running a two-man game with Zach Edey. So before I move on to my third and final point, I just want to showcase one play that I think the Grizzlies could use with Zach Edey next season. I'll just let it play and then break it down. There's a number of reasons why I like this play. Number one being all the players on the floor aside from Steven Adams are still on the Grizzlies roster. So again, I think this is something that Memphis could absolutely run this coming season. But also it being a dribble handoff play, it's something that Zach Edey did a lot in college and something I can absolutely see him doing a lot of in the NBA as well. So as you'll see, Steven Adams receives the pass from Ja Morant, and Conchar cuts up through the free throw line and back down into the lane, and you'll see why in a second why he positions himself there. Steven Adams turns and gets ready for the dribble handoff with Desmond Bane coming out of the left corner. In the opposite corner, you can kind of see a little bit of, misdirection between Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., occupying Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. Devin Booker is at this point trailing Desmond Bane. Steven Adams rolling to the rim, and Conchar, who I mentioned before, setting a back screen on JaVale McGee, impeding his ability to contest a shot at the rim, leaving Chris Paul, the smallest player on the court for Phoenix, to defend a shot attempt at the rim by Desmond Bane or a potential lob to Steven Adams. Again, this is something I can absolutely see the Grizzlies running for Zach Edey next season, and I feel like this is a play he could potentially even score his first NBA points on. The last area where I think Zach Edey can make an immediate impact is with his ability as a passer from the post. I don't think Zach Edey's ever going to be one of the premier passing big men in the NBA, but I feel like he's a lot better than what people give him credit for. I feel like he's really good at knowing when the double team is going to come. There were a handful of times during the NCAA tournament run where he would take one dribble and kick it out to a shooter. Him being 7'4", I feel like that gives him the ability to just see over a lot of double teams as well. And not only that, I think at times he's an unselfish passer. even when he's in position to score, he's still looking to find his teammates. I'm not saying Zach Edey is going to be perfect in this aspect, but I think it's another element of Edey's game that will translate well to the NBA. Zach Edey is a monumental prospect, both literally and figuratively, and I'm really excited to see how he performs during his rookie season with the Memphis Grizzlies. In terms of his prospects of winning Rookie of the Year, I think it'll come down to usage with him, if he can win the starting job in Memphis, how many post touches does he get as a rookie, etc. But regardless of any end of season accolades, I feel like he's going to be a valuable contributor for the Grizzlies this coming season and for the entirety of his tenure in Memphis.